And in this video, you can basically steal the exact same framework I've used to generate more than 9.2 million in sales for our e-commerce clients totally for free. And you will get everything from Google Ads 101 to basics, to account structure and basic guidelines, to optimization, growth plan, outsourcing do and don'ts, and the 7 bonus tools that basically gonna help you become a sensei in Google Ads management. So basically, let's get into it. So in terms of the Google Ads 101 situation, what is Google Ads in the beginning? So Google Ads is high intent traffic. So it's people that are already looking for your product. E.g. if you're looking for running shoes, then you don't go to Meta ads or something like that. You don't go to Instagram. You don't go to Facebook ads. You go to Google and you begin searching for running shoes. It could be Nike, it could be Adidas, it could be Puma, all of these on etc. It could be one of those things. And then you would go to Google or another search engine. But Google is the main PPC engine people are using over in the Western world, and most of the world in general, they have a monopoly. So basically, it's high intent traffic that is going to give you clicks from people that is already looking for something like your product. And the great thing about Google is that you can scale using AI bidding. So not only are you getting high intent traffic, but you can also utilize Google's algorithms to basically get even better suggestions and better bid capabilities, and then get better ROAS in the end. So what is Google Ads in general? It is what people primarily see is its search listings and its product listings. So search listings is something that's triggered by keyword, and product listing is triggered on a product search. So the best thing about Google Ads is you only pay per click. And every brand that's doing plus 7 figures is actively running Google Ads in the world. So what you need to understand is that Google Ads is much more than just these two guys. So it's not just search and it's not just product listings. It is much more than that. It is YouTube ads, it's display ads, it is remarketing ads. It is all of these things combined, and combined, it gives you the ability to advertise on over 2 billion sites in the world. In terms of remarketing, you get to advertise on apps, you get to advertise on YouTube, you get to advertise across these different inventory that Google has that you can advertise for. And that is why Google Ads is much more powerful than people think. Most people just think that Google Ads is about doing keyword catching of volume. But no, in theory, it can cover anything from remarketing to prospecting to mid-funnel to top funnel to bottom funnel. And that's what I'm going to teach you here. So why is it great for e-commerce? It is great because you only pay for clicks. Check. You can show up for high intent traffic. Check. And you can use algorithms to bid toward a target CPA or ROAS. So if you have a ROAS goal of, let's say, 400%, then with the correct amount of data, you can say to Google, don't bid against this keyword if you don't think this profile will convert into a ROAS of at least 400%. That is powerful tools, and it's so powerful that it's used by all of these big e-commerce stores: Walmart, IKEA, eBay, Amazon, Wish, Etsy, ASOS. All of these guys are actively using Google Ads to drive their performances across the world. So when I get to make it seem so easy, it's high intent traffic, it's much more than search ads, and it's great for e-commerce. Why does a lot of people fail? They fail because they don't focus on brand/non-brand traffic. So they don't differentiate non-branded ROAS with branded ROAS. And that's a key failing point for nearly everybody running Google Ads in general. So then secondly, they don't optimize the Google Ads feed. So the product feed, they don't get optimized. They don't optimize ad copy. They don't do all of these things. And then fourthly, they don't run any continuously A/B experiments and split test. And this is why the scaling circle exists. Because if you don't use the scaling circle, you're gonna get a system error, is what I call it. It's red lights all across your basically situation. So why should you listen to me first of all? Who am I? So my name is Christian Troelsen. I'm 21 at the moment of this recording. I recorded this in January 14th. 2026. So my name is Christian Troelsen, I'm 21 and I am Danish nationality. I sold my first e-commerce store when I was 16 and I've been in the game for 5 years in the PPC world, managing over $2 million in ad spend at the moment. I've worked with 6, 7 and 8 figure stores, giving audits, running PPC, training in-house teams, and I've trained over 3 agencies in the meantime. I have direct contacts at Google in New York City, so if we have suspensions or anything, I can literally just call them up. I've been at the Google headquarters on a visit, and yeah, this is one of my contacts. I have plenty of contacts, but this is Sophia, head of agency large customer sales at Google, or manager at agency large customer sales at Google. And you can see here it's Google, and it's me, and it's my note taker, and it's Google's note taker. And we are, of course, also certified Google Ads partners with the Google team in the US. So Troll Media was basically founded in 2021 and we began running Google Ads in 2022. So since 2022, I have been running Google Ads and I've been running the division for Google Ads in the agency. Mid-2024, we merged with Carlsen Digital, which is a SoMe agency. But in early 2025, we returned to the Troll Media brand as a PPC only agency, which was my goal in the beginning. So we've been a bit around and I know how it is driving a full stack agency and I know how it is driving a real PPC agency. And my goal is to build the first in the world senior PPC agency. So becoming the best in the world at running these things. So basically what you can see is that when you basically go into here, what we have helped is we turned Askirts.com. So this is one of my clients. EasySnap is also one of my clients. Together, these have 70% market share in the US. And we have TableUp, we have BabyMarks, we have Caspera, we have Alki, we have Olasan, we have Askirts, Loiti, One, Cocodrip, and much, much more e-commerce cases. And if you want to check out an interview, then go out to my YouTube channel and check out the Askirts interview, basically. So besides them, you can see here that this is basically all of our some of our reviews from Trustpilot, and you can see that they are all good. So basically, what are you gonna get in this? So let's dive into it basically. So what do you need to focus on when running an e-commerce store? First of all, you need to understand that there is a lot of things you need to go into. You need to do market research. You need to understand your products and pricing and website. Without understanding all of these things, you're never gonna get the success you're looking for with Google Ads. So first of all, what you need to understand is that your TAM and market size, what I like to do when evaluating TAM and market size in the beginning, because you can also do TAM expansion, which is a bonus model in this. But what I like to do is I like to go onto Google Trends to see if there's any seasonality in the products that we need to be aware of. And then you can also identify when you need to scale, because some given period of the year, the interest for your products will be higher, or the categories, and you need to evaluate that against Google Trends. So, but by doing your market size research, what you are actually going to do is you're going to use the Google Ads Keyword Planner. You're going to identify all the keywords that is relevant and the major keywords, and then you're going to track the volume through your Google Ads Keyword Planner. And by tracking the volume, you can easily see with your conversion rate data, what is your maxable attainable revenue within a market. So that's what you're gonna do in the beginning. You are gonna establish a core baseline for what is possible, let's say in the United States market, what is possible in the Canadian market, and what would be possible in the Norwegian market if you were there. Because if you identify that it's only possible to do $8 million dollars in one market, but you need to do $20 million in one market, then you're going to have serious problems, because then you would need to either expand your TAM or you would need to expand your geographical reach. So TAM expansion can be done by doing prospecting with YouTube and etc. That's the main gen. And the rest can basically be done by just filling in new countries in general. So that's one of the things you need to understand, that you can evaluate your TAM and your market size by using Google Trends and Google Keyword Planner. And then for when you've identified your TAM size and have begun getting the understanding that there is a good TAM, and then you need to look into pricing strategy. A thing most people don't understand when running Google Ads is that their pricing strategy is gonna differentiate them, and it's gonna determine your success with Google Ads in general. One thing you can do here is basically spy on your competition. So you can go into your competition and see what they're running. You can go into your competition using the Google Ads Transparency Center. This is a way of spying on your competition, seeing what products they're running ads for, seeing what type of ads they're running. And then you need to be competitive. If you're running basically a setup or marketing setup that is contingent on product ads, then you need to understand that these product ads are going to show your product side by side to other stores, and then there's going to be a price. So if you are coming in 20% higher than the other guys, then you're not going to win the auction. So that is one key component. You're not going to have success with Google if you don't understand what your competitions are doing in terms of price strategy and in terms of size, the market sizes. You need to understand these things before you go on a scaling ramp. If you don't, you're going to fail. Then you need to understand the economics and scalability. Economics and scalability comes into the picture after you've begun running your Google Ads and are running your Google Ads. You need to have these two things narrowed down first. Then you need to understand what is your customer lifetime value and what is your CAC, so client acquisition cost. Then you need to understand your MER, and you need to understand ROAS and POAS. So your ROAS needs to be above a ROAS of 3 to 3.5 to be able to effectively scale in a market and still having enough for your operation and your operating cash flow within your business. Then scalability. What you can do here is scalability is defined by TAM, quality, economics, and customer lifetime reviews and customer lifetime value. So, of course, if your customer lifetime value increases to more than your competition, let's say 30% more than your competition, then your customer lifetime value to CAC ratio is gonna go up. So this means you can spend more than your competition, outbid them, and thus winning the game and scaling even faster. But you need to have a clear understanding of how TAM relates to your customer lifetime value, your reviews, and the quality of the service you provide. Without understanding all of these metrics, you're never gonna scale. One way to increase your customer lifetime value could be to add upsells, cross sales, all of these things. But you can also modify the CAC, which you can do by doing conversion rate optimizations instead. So conversion rate optimizations could be looking into your product sites. It could be looking into category sites. It could be basic UI, UX heat map searches. So if you understand your product, your pricing, your website, your TAM, and your metrics, all of these things, and define your competitive edge, you're gonna win the competition. But let's dive into the basics, because now you've understood the core fundamentals of running an e-commerce store. And what you need to dive into now is setting up the fundamentals. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna set up the correct app stack for GMC. So this is the Shopify way of doing things. You go into Shopify, and I recommend you do either one of these things. Either you go in and set up a native integration, which is free, or you use Data Feed Watch, which is paid. One thing you need to understand here is that the Data Feed Watch comes with a lot of other opportunities for optimizations on the data feed, advanced strategies, etc. But if you are not above, let's say 70K a month or 100K a month, then I would just go with the native integration of Google instead of going all in with the Data Feed Watch instead. But if you are doing significant revenue and are doing the data feed optimization, which we are gonna go into, then please feel free to use the Data Feed Watch instead and switch over. Then you're gonna connect Shopify, the native integration, then into Merchant Center, and now you're gonna get your feed into your Google Ads and you're ready to run your PMax setup, technically. For WooCommerce, what we always use is WooCommerce, Data Feed Watch, and then into Merchant Center, and then into the Google Ads. As you can see here, it's very simple. It's the same setup, but WooCommerce doesn't have does have a lot of apps, but we only use the data feed watch to keep it clear and simple for all of our clients. So that's what I recommend. Conversion tracking. What you need to understand is that there is definitely a wrong way to do this, and there is a good way to do this. So first of all, what you're going to do, I can see I've made a mistake here. This should have been the new way of doing things. So the old way is doing client-side tracking. It's client-side tracking and it's outdated, and it should never be used as the primary, only as a backup, because it misses a significant portion of the real revenue you're driving. It makes your profitable campaigns look unprofitable. It makes every A/B experiment nearly irrelevant, because you're gonna optimize for the wrong signals for both Meta, Google, and every platform you have in your entire arsenal. But keep in mind that it's still useful for remarketing audience pools, and it works as a fallback for Google and YouTube apps. It's automatically installed when you use the native integration from Shopify. So just do that, and then you can use it for remarketing and backup signals, such as add to cart, initiate checkout, page views, and etc. So our setup is always setup A or setup B in general. So, but it depends on the case. So if you're a heavy Google Ads user, don't really have other channels, have over 100 product IDs, and a high economic focus, then I recommend you to use profit metrics. Profit metrics will allow you to segment your feed and a lot of other things. It will also allow you to optimize against profit on ad spend instead of revenue on ad spend, which could, in theory, increase your profitability of your e-commerce store, because instead of optimizing for ROAS, you would be optimizing for POAS. And POAS is basically defined by your gross margins on your product. So Google pushes what you earn the most on. Then you can set a profitability target. And Triple Whale, we use this if the client has multi-platform attribution. So let's say you're running Meta ads, you're running TikTok ads, you're running Snapchat ads, and Google ads. Then we're running Triple Whale, because Triple Whale has a much better multi-platform attribution tool than any platform tracking on the market has. So that's basically what you need to understand in running conversion tracking. Now that you understand how to set up your products, pricing, website, and your app stack for GMC and the conversion tracking, let's dive into the keywords research, basically. So before you basically dive into making your campaigns, what you're gonna do is you're gonna do keyword research. And here you need to understand that there's 3 tools you can use when doing keyword research. So first of all is the specific keyword research tool. And then you have trend volume research and you have competitor research. These are fundamental things you need to understand when running keyword research and before setting up any campaigns. So specific keyword research, you use Google Ads Keyword Planner. Your use case for this is you finding core commercial keywords. So that could be identifying what keywords are relevant for your products based on search volume. You can use this to estimate search volume and CPC prices before setting up your campaigns. And then you can use this to identify your estimated TAM size. The outcome of doing this is you will go in with basically no keywords, and you will come out with core commercial keywords. You will come out with search volume statistics and an estimated TAM size. So you come out with a clear keyword list for search campaigns with demand estimates. And then your type here, next type is trend volume research. You do this to validate seasonality and interest. And then you can also compare keyword interest over time. So are the trend volume increasing for this brand, or is it decreasing? So you use this to identify as rising versus declining demands, pattern you need to be aware of when advertising for the client, and it allows you to trend validate before launching new campaigns or going into a new account. Then this third thing is competitor research. So what you're going to do is you're going to jump into SEMrush. And SEMrush is going to allow you to, it's actually an SEO tool, but it comes out to the same thing. It allows you to identify which keywords your competitors are primarily bidding for and against. And by doing this, you can analyze your competitors' positioning, what they're focusing on, and you might be able to spot gaps or opportunities in their search framework. And this gives insights for ad copies and angles you can use. So If you do keyword research correctly, you will enter without really a clear pattern, and you will exit with a keyword list for search campaigns and demand estimates. You will exit with trend validations before launching new campaigns, and you will exit with insights for ad copies and angles based on what your competition are doing. By doing this, you will be positioning yourself for success with your Google Ads campaigns. Because if you outcompete your competition on all of these variables, including price strategy and website and trust, you are gonna win in the end. The last thing in your fundamentals are gonna be your GMC product feed basics. So I need to emphasize this. You're not gonna get success if you don't understand these things. So what you need to understand is that, let's say it was cordless vacuum we were going for here. Then a very, very bad example of this would be just putting in your products into Shopify and then the title leaving that a vacuum cleaner cordless sale, best price, and then high quality vacuum cleaner for home use, powerful and lightweight, limited offer buy now, brand Dyson, GTIN missing, MPN missing, product type it's just home, and Google product category is electronics. While all of this is correct, this is gonna hammer you in the auctions in general. So if you do this, if you don't optimize just with basic optimizations on keywords on your products, then you're gonna get absolutely hammered in the auctions. So a good example of this could, in theory, be Dyson V8 absolutely cordless vacuum cleaner. 40 minutes runtime. So can you see what this is doing? First of all, we're gonna put in the brand name. Then we're gonna put in the model, and we're gonna put in the general title of the product. It's a cordless vacuum cleaner. And then they have a logic statement, which is 40-minute runtime. This is battery. Can you see what they're doing here? They are putting in keywords that is related to the search people would make, because you would search for vacuum cleaner, a runtime, so the battery life, and what could you else be searching for? You could be searching for that it should be a HEPA filtration. You could search for lightweight design, motorized floor head. You could search for a vacuum cleaner for carpets, hard floors, or pet hair. Can you see what they're doing here? They are putting everything in search terms, everything. Logic statements, feature statements, brand statements, model statements. They are putting in the brand correctly. They are putting in the GTIN, which allows Google to identify which products you're in general competing against. The MPN is basically the same. And product type, they put it into the correct one. Instead of just putting it to home, they put it into home and garden, house appliances, and vacuum cleaners, which helps Google identify what product is this in general and what should we push this against. Because remember, if you have a higher quality score, you can win the auctions with a lower bid. Because Google always cares about delivering the best products to the audience and not the highest bid all the time. So color is defined rightly, silver and yellow, and battery source is battery. So when you're looking at these two things, if it was you, who do you think would win the auctions based on the core principle that Google auctions are defined by your bid x your ad quality? So do you think that the good example will win with a lower CPA, or do you think the bad example will win if you're having, let's say, the same bid? Who will win the auction? It is, you can take a guess now. And in 1, 2, 3 seconds, I'm going to reveal it. So 1, 2, 3. It's going to be the good example. Of course, it's going to be the good example. So what you need to optimize against is putting in features, logic statements, and everything into your feed, so your feed is clear and easy to understand for everything. If you understand all of these fundamentals, including TAM, market size, pricing strategy, economic scalability, the correct feed structure, basic feed optimization, keyword research, and conversion strategy, then you're going to get success with your Google Ads. That is going to take you to above 30K easily. So basically what we're now going to jump into is the account structure and basic guidelines. So what you need to understand that these are the types of campaigns you need to know when running your Google Ads. Because if you don't, then you're going to have seriously some problems by setting all of these things up. You need to understand how these work together, and you need to understand how they work against each other and how you should utilize them. So first of all, what you're going to do is We have your search campaigns, we have shopping campaigns, we have PMax campaigns, we have display campaigns, we have YouTube, and we have demand gen. These are all used for different things, from prospecting to demand capture. So, first of all, let's dive into search. This is a crucial campaign that you need to understand. First of all, so in terms of your search campaigns, what you first need to understand, and I'm going to put this out from the beginning, what you need to understand for all of the demand capture campaigns is that you are going to apply for what we call a brand exclusions. If it's not branded search or a branded campaign, then all campaigns in your arsenal are going to have a brand exclusion. This means that if your company is named Air Skirts, then Air Skirts will never trigger in your non-branded ROAS campaigns. This is one of the biggest mistakes any agency in the world are gonna make, and I would say 70% of all agencies across the world are doing this to inflate their results. So you're gonna run a brand exclusion if it's not a branded campaign. This allows you to scale your company even faster because you now know your incremental ROAS and not your blended branded ROAS. So let's dive into it. For example, let's take the hoodie here, for example. Cool, comfort, no sweat, made from a blend of nylon spandex that feels 3x cooler than cotton while stocks last. Get hot easily, dread the summer, energy bill. I'm guessing that this is a branded, some kind of branded hoodie search campaign in general, but it will do the trick. So this has been triggered by a keyword, but it's one of the hoodies branded because you can see here the UD TM, so it's a branded campaign. It has probably been triggered by the UD keyword search. So it's going to be triggered by a search keyword. And then what you need to understand is that this campaign type requires keywords. So you're going to manually put in what keywords you want to trigger. And then you're manually going to select your exact phrase and broad match. What you need to understand about exact phrase and broad match is that the more exact you get, the more expensive the CPC price is going to get. So broad is very cheap, phrase is mid cheap, and exact is very expensive to run ads for. Keep this in mind when you decide if you're going to use phrase or exact match, because phrase match will typically do the trick, while exact match is much more expensive. Then this campaign type uses ad copy to match query intent. So that means that your keywords and which ads is going to be triggered is which ad Google defines as being the most relevant ad. So in this case, if you were selling running shoes, Nike running shoes, then you would outperform it if you if the search were Nike running shoes. Then if you have an ad that's mentioning Nike and running shoes in one sentence, then you would outperform the ones that just said yellow running shoes, for example. You would win the auction with a lower bid. Then what you understand is that you control the bids in a search campaigns, and they're set at a keyword or a campaign level. And landing page, you also control this. So with search ads, you have a lot of control over the account overall, and you have a control over all extensions, site links, callouts, structured snippets, and all of these things. What you need to understand here, I made some notes out here, it is that you need to be very clear about separating brand and generic and competitor campaigns into different campaigns. You're never gonna, and I'm not gonna stop emphasizing this, you cannot have your branded keywords with a non-branded campaign. And I want you to say this out loud. You cannot have branded and non-branded spend in one campaign. Then you need to build out a global negative keyword list for keywords that you don't want to trigger on your PMax campaign, your search campaign, shopping campaigns, etc. And these are going to be on all of your campaigns. What you need to understand is that your search campaigns are not going to send volume directly into a product page. You're going to send them into a filtered page or closest category page. So if you're selling bakery supplies and selling something like utensils, then what you're going to do is you're going to send these things into the closest category of utensils. You're not going to send them into a category page with all the products in your category, and you're not going to send them into your specific product page unless there's a very good reason for that. Good. So an account structure for search could look like this. It could look like account structure, branded search, and then generic search. So generic search is your testing campaigns, and then you have your single keyword ad group, which is your scaling campaign, hyper-specific, with very high ROAS. So what you need to understand here is, how do you set this up? So branded search, first of all, you need to understand one thing, that many people use exact match because they think that's the best thing. No, that's not what you're gonna do. What you're gonna do is you're gonna set up branded search campaign, and then you're gonna do a brand inclusion. This means that you cannot trigger if your brand isn't included in the search. Fantastic. Now you set out a broad match on your branded keyword, because you cannot trigger if your brand isn't included in the query. So this means you're using the cheapest cheapest match type, which equals cheap CPA for your company, which typically equals a ROAS above 200x. So that means, 2,000. No, 20,000. Yeah, you get the point. 200x. And then you're gonna set up a generic search. Here you're gonna do brand exclusions, and then what you're gonna do is let me just get this off. And then you're gonna run brand exclusions because it's a non-branded campaign, and then you're gonna do broad match also because it's cheap, and it allows you to get a lot of new keywords and inspiration for your company, what could be working. And then you're gonna be very heavy because you are running broad match, so you're gonna run a negative search. Everything that works here and has gotten more than 5 conversions, you're gonna pull over into a single keyword ad group, because as I just told you before, the Google formula for winning the auction is bid X ad quality. So what you're gonna do is, doing a single keyword ad group, brand exclusion, now you're gonna do phrase match and add your global negative search list also. And this is 1 ad per 1 ad group. So this means, let's say you were selling, let's take Nike running shoes and running shoes. So running shoes would be in your generic search, whereas Nike Vaporfly running shoes, let's say that had gotten 25 conversions above a ROAS 5x, and your generic search were only returning a 3.5. Now you're pulling it over into a single keyword ad group, writing hyper-specific ads with high relevancy to the Nike Vaporfly campaigns. And now you get a higher ad rank, and your ROAS jumps from 5 to 6.2 when you take it into a single keyword ad group. Now you can push the Vaporfly segment also individually. So this is basically the account structure you run when you run search ads. And that's what you need to understand. The KPI from running your search ad will always be something related to purchase value. So that could be ROAS, it could be target CPA, or something like that in general. But yeah, let's move on to shopping. And again, you need to always activate brand exclusion on a shopping campaign, unless it's branded shopping. So again, here it's triggered by a keyword, but with a shopping feed, you have much less control than you have in any other campaign in general. You don't really have that much control besides your title and your description. So here, what you need to focus on is feed optimization. So it's triggered by a search keyword. So let's say it was jackets, then outdoor jacket, Patagonia jackets, then Patagonia jackets would push up. It requires a GMC product feed, but you already know this from the fundamentals because you already set it up. And then it uses your product data and not your ad copy to match queries. So this means your titles, your descriptions, and this is what we talked about when we were down here about writing a good example. If you don't do this, then you're gonna fail at the above over here. So here bids are applied at product or group or campaign level. And this means that you can either go in with manual CPC at a product level, or you can do a campaign level strategy in general. So that means target ROAS, maximize clicks, or target CPA. And the creative, you don't really have any control about it. It generates your creative based on the title, price, image, and brand. You can see here it's utilized the sale, etc., because it was on sale. But you don't control if it says shipping is free. There's a lot of things you don't control. You give up a lot of control for shopping, but you also get this magnificent tool. So what you need to understand is that landing page and feed quality has the biggest impact besides pricing strategy on this. So what you need to focus on here is that you rewrite your product title for search intent, not internal naming. We went over this in the fundamentals. And then you segment your campaigns by ROAS or POAS to control budget pacing and control testing. Because what shopping usually does is it finds a few products that it really likes to push, and then it just pushes them, and then you will have zombie products that basically never gets any spend, never is tested, and that might be a gold mine to look at these. So, you need to focus on your low margin SKUs being actively blocked, or they will begin dominating spend. So what do I mean by this? It is that you're gonna run what we call a bonus. You're gonna run a superhero strategy, sidekick strategy, and a zombie and a villain strategy. This is if you're having more than 100 SKUs, you really need to run this strategy. It's superheroes, which is a shopping campaign that has all your products that have gotten more than 3 conversions in the last 30 days. Your sidekick campaigns is the campaign that's gotten less than 3 conversions, but more than 1 conversions. And your zombie campaigns is what has gotten less than 30 clicks and less than nearly no impressions, but no conversions. And villains is your low ROI. These are usually taking up 15 to 30% of the budget, and it's just wasting your ROAS because it's pulling down the account overall. So that's what I mean here. You need a framework in place that can reduce the spend you're spending on villains. And you need a framework that automatically tests zombies, sidekicks, and superheroes and move things around automatically. So, one thing you need to understand from this is that a bad product feed will make or break both a shopping and a PMax setup in general. So, these two are a little bit intertwined. Sorry for me jumping through them, but we're gonna jump back to this in a second before. So, what you need to understand is that when we're running shopping, we actually always just use PMax, and I usually use a feed only, because this mimics an old campaign type which was called Smart Shopping, which gave really good results, but Google discontinued. But you can mimic it by doing a PMax campaigns feed only and then making all the other assets very bad. Because if the quality scores low, then it stops bidding for it because it's not competitive in the auctions. Again, PMax, you need to activate brand exclusions in your primary PMax. Secondary brand PMax is okay. So what is different from running a shopping and a PMax setup? First of all, you get access to your whole of Google's ad inventory. So you get access, you basically allow it, you just set the budget, you get search, shopping, display, YouTube, discover, and Gmail ads in one go. It requires a conversion goal to bid. You cannot do a PMax strategy without having a conversion goal. And then you need to have a product feed where a merchant center is connected, if you're running e-commerce. And it requires creative assets, images, headlines, descriptions, and video. And then bids and budgets are set at a campaign only level. So this is not like search and shopping where you have some kind of manual control. No, in PMax you're giving everything up and you can only control on campaign levels. It doesn't use keywords, it uses audience signals. And yeah, that's basically it. So it's a very effective campaign, but you're giving up a lot of control also. So what you need to understand here is that you can run feed only. This setup gives you a PMax only with the shopping feed and as little else as possible. It's not always allowed to run feed only campaigns. It differs by account and region. But if it is, then if it isn't, then a shopping only and then just add generic search feed and generic assets, bad quality, then it wouldn't use it. So the pros here is that PMax has less to work with, which increases control. More control over spend, more control over SKU prioritization, which works great if you're running a bucket strategy, which is the bonus module of this. Then it generally performs better than just standard shopping, in my opinion. And the cons of using this is that PMax has less inventory to test with. I use this around 60% of the e-commerce cases we work on in general. And then you have the other flavor of a PMax setup, which is with assets. So this can be explained by this setup where you give PMax the shopping feed plus creative assets. So this unlocks the whole sphere of Google Ads. One thing that is very important here is that you don't give this campaign access to brand keywords, because then you are going to get really good ROAS results, but you're going to get really, really bad non-branded results. So here you're going to do pro The pros are the PMax can test more inventory and placements, and it leaves you more room to scale compared to feed only. You also get a larger TAM because it does prospecting. And the cons here is that Google PMax can mess up, and it sometimes does, and spend in the wrong categories, and it means you have less control compared to feed only. We use this in the case where we have e-commerce brands that have less SKUs and mostly have innovative products that isn't that price competitive. So that could be companies with weighted blankets, for example, where it's one product and it's more about the features of the product than it's about the price. But it works on Google because there's search volume. So here's a key factor. A key factor in determining if you're going to run feed only or with assets is the question. Ask yourself if search is more dominant. So you're going to ask yourself the question, are search the more dominant and is shopping not working? If yes, then you will take this. If shopping is working for your company, then you are going to go with this setup. So feed only. If shopping ain't working for your company, but search is, then you're going to go with assets all the time. So notes here that you need to be aware of. PMax scales whatever you allow it to, including your worst products, including your brand names. So you need to segment into brand exclusion and brand inclusion campaigns. And then if you have over 100 products, then you need to run it in a bucket strategy. Else you're going to spend a lot on zombie products and bad products in general. And then fourthly, you need good conversion signals. So this is not going to work if you don't have the right conversion tracking in general. So if you're getting less than 30 conversions a month, then don't run the PMax setup, run the manual search campaigns instead until it works, and manual search campaigns until it works. When you get above 30 conversions, then you transition into a feed only setup in general. Remember, a bad product feed will make or break everything in general. When you're setting this up, this is an account structure we would usually use. So it would be a branded PMax or shopping over here on one side. It would be a non-branded PMax or shopping campaign on the other side. And by doing this in the non-branded PMax structure, you will do superheroes, sidekicks, villains, and zombies campaigns in general. So that's the structure you are going to set up. Then the display ads. For the display ads, what you need to understand is, first of all, that display ads is visual creatives. It's included in PMax setup, but I like to use it for remarketing and in separate campaigns along with YouTube ads. So this is a display ad. So display ads is a lot of things. It can be product feeds. It can be display ads over here. It can be HTML5 ads over here. But key things to remember here is that it uses visual creative images, logos, responsive display ads, and it runs across Google Display Network, so websites, apps, and YouTube in general. Then it requires audience targeting, so either remarketing, in-market, or custom segments. It can be used for retargeting and prospecting. Never use it for prospecting, in my opinion. And then budgets and bids are set on a campaign level or an ad group level. And it's triggered by audiences or placements and not keywords. So a little bit like the PMax setup in general. And then you manually define the landing page. So you have a little bit of control. You have more control than you have in the PMax setup, but you'll get a lot of the offerings from the PMax setup in general. Notes here you need to remember is that it should be used only for remarketing, in my opinion. I know it's a bit polarizing, but in my opinion, we have never used this for anything but remarketing. It requires very strong remarketing audiences, so site visitors, product views, etc. So you need to really dial in your conversion tracking. And this is what we talked about over here, that you can use these conversion site tracking for remarketing and backup signals. These are the signals you're going to use for display ads, for example. What I tend to do here is I know that the display ads are going to prefer your shopping ads preferred. Then feed-based display tend to outperform generic banners. And if you are running banner ads, which again, it comes down to if you're running with assets, so if your search ads are performing better, then you're going to run HTML5s a lot more than you're going to run shopping feeds. Here you need to understand what you're going to run here. Look at is search performing better than shopping? Is shopping performing? Always ask you these things, because that's the core principles of what you're going to do in remarketing. So what you need to understand here is you can make HTML5 This ad you can make using the Creatophy tool. And yeah, landing pages you already define, and it should be always a product page. So close to the end goal. So this is going to be product pages, and this is going to be category pages in general. And the KPI is again purchase value. So that's gonna wrap it up for the 4 campaign types that you need to clearly understand before moving along. So now let's move into how you're gonna use YouTube and demand gen ads, and how you can use this to expand your TAM even more than you're already doing at the moment. So let's jump into this. Good. So the key principles of YouTube ads is, first of all, the Ds are basically a little bit debated. So you can use them for both prospecting and remarketing. In general, I like to use demand gen for prospecting, and in my opinion, use YouTube for retargeting. This is so effective for running remarketing ads, but a lot of people don't understand this because they don't understand the key principles of black box metrics. So YouTube ads is, in my opinion, a remarketing channel. I don't use it for TAM expansions from prospecting personally, because demand gen, in my opinion, is better at this, and it includes YouTube remarketing in general. So that's a preference choice. But I use YouTube because it gives me control. I control frequency, sequencing, and messaging. That matters more to me than just cheap reach. Demand gen will provide you with a little bit cheaper reach, but YouTube is better in my opinion. One thing you need to focus on here is that the hook is where you win the attention. You need to win the attention in 2 to 3 seconds. If you don't, then the ad is basically a little bit dead. But this is about brand recognition instead of everything else. So what you need to understand, I lead with the product, the problem, and the outcome, and then branding comes later. This is not some fancy branding campaign you're doing. What you need to understand that everything related to Google Ads is a frequency marketing tool. You need to be in the face of your customers, and that is gonna win the game for you. You need to be the brand they are thinking about all the time. You can do this with feeder-based optimization, but my philosophy is the higher the frequency, the better the performance in general, long term. That is my opinion in general. So YouTube is not a click channel in my opinion. I do not judge YouTube on last click ROAS. I optimize for attention, view rate, and engage views. YouTube needs a real budget. So if you cannot allocate $50 to $100 per day per creative or market, you do not provide, you're not going to provide any reliable signals. Below that, you basically never get out of the learning phase, and learning never compounds. So YouTube remarketing accelerates what is already working. So you need to understand that if your shopping and your search is working, then YouTube remarketing is going to accelerate that and give you better downstream performance. It reinforces demand that already exists, and it improves your conversion rates across search, shopping, and PMAX in general. So here's how I measure. I measure YouTube not on a campaign level, but on an account level, because good YouTube remarketing lifts brand search, it lifts shopping, and it lifts performance max campaigns. And in our own test, we saw a plus 12% lift in blended ROAS across accounts when we turned on Google YouTube ads in general. So while it lifted the ROAS on the overall account, the blended ROAS, I also need to emphasize that the ROAS on the campaign was nearly 1x, maybe less than 1x. So what you need to understand here is that you have a high level KPI and a mid level KPI. So ROAS needs to be tracked. You need to track some kind of ROAS. And if you're tracking some kind of ROAS, you know that based on your high level KPI, that it's going to have an effect on your entirety of the account based on our studies. So high level KPI is how many impressions are you getting, how many clicks are you getting, and then mid level KPIs is are you getting some kind of conversion tracking on this, but don't measure this. If you have a break-even ROAS of 3, then don't kill the campaigns just because you're laying around 1x in ROAS. Don't kill the campaign, because it is going to have an effect on your overall account in general. So what is YouTube? So YouTube ads could be in-stream. YouTube ads could be in shorts with feeds and creatives. It could be this, and it could be on the first page. It could be a lot of things. But let's say you come around and you are pushing $150K a month in revenue, and you've done all of these things. You're running search, you're running shopping, you're running PMAX, you're running display ads, you're running YouTube. You're doing all of these things and you're following my framework, from which I'm gonna dive into over here. You're doing all of these things, but you have defined your TAM, but you know you're lacking, or you're running out of TAM. So you've defined your TAM over here by Google Trends and Google Keywords Ads Plan, and you know your max, let's say, is 200K, and you're pushing 150K through every month. Now you're gonna have a problem. You're gonna need to either expand your TAM by moving into another country, or you're gonna expand your TAM beyond keywords in the country you're going for. If you want to expand your TAM within the country overall, then you are gonna like this approach. You're gonna like to run demand gen campaigns. I like to use this to expand TAM. It includes YouTube ads also, and you can watch the bonus module on TAM expansion also. So, what is TAM in general? So, demand gen is my prospecting channel. So, when you use this, it's used to expand your TAM beyond keywords, and it's designed for cold and warm audiences. So you can both use this campaign to prospecting, remarketing, etc. Like we talked about, frequency. Let's say you're into running niche, like I've used in the whole video here. Then why not run demand gen ads on every running term, running video in the entire YouTube and display marketing? You're gonna push ads to the United States running community, or the Norwegian running community, or the Swedish running community, and thus you're gonna be synonymous with the category. That is how you're gonna do it. So success is if you improve your downstream attribution, if you improve the trend, if you improve your ROAS, if you improve your amount of impressions, if you improve the overall clicks, improve the overall blended revenue on your account. And here you're just gonna focus. You're not gonna focus on ROAS, you're not gonna focus on anything, because it's gonna be hard to track. But you're gonna focus on impressions and clicks. That is everything you're gonna focus on, nothing else. And what is a demand gen campaign? It's gonna push you out to every platform in the arsenal. So Gmail, you're going to be pushed into display ads, 2 billion sites. You're going to be pushed into YouTube. Everything is in this. And that's the beauty of it. What people don't understand is that Google Ads is much more than just running search and shopping. You can do TAM expansion, you can do prospecting, you can do retargeting. So what is an example of an account structure you can run? A simple account structure would be setting up a PMAX and shopping setup with a brand exclusion, global negative keyword list, and then target ROAS. Then you would set up a non-branded PMAX strategy with shopping feed, with sub-campaigns, superheroes, sidekicks, zombies, and villains to control the budgets individually. Then you would set up a brand exclusion campaign on this one, and you would set up a global negative keyword list on this also. Then you would run brand search to pull out all of the brand keywords and all of these that would else be leaking into some of these campaigns. And you're going to run broad match to set a low target CPA. Because you're running broad match, you can reduce the target CPA strategy even lower than before, because it's cheaper. And then you're going to run a generic search campaigns with a brand exclusion. You're going to do global negative keywords, and you're going to use broad match again. And then you're using target ROAS here. And then you're taking everything that worked great into your generic search campaigns and pulling it into a single keyword ad group. And here you're going to run brand exclusion strategy again. And remember, it's one keyword per one ad group and one ad per ad group. Here you're going to run phrase match. It's a bit more expensive to run. And you're going to choose either target ROAS or target CPA. You're going to test what works best using an A/B experiment within Google. Remember, test. Then when you scale past 100K consistently a month, then you begin expanding your TAM and adding YouTube ads or demand gen. Slowly. This is the most important one, and you slowly begin adding this. You don't need meta ads, you don't need social media ads, you don't need anything. But now let's dive into the real good stuff. So, what you're actually gonna need from me is, and what you probably come to this, is how to structure accounts. You have come to this video to learn how to structure accounts. So first of all, if you're doing tracked revenue from 0 to 20K a month, then this is the structure you're gonna run. Unfortunately, I couldn't find an account in our arsenal that were tracking that low amount of ROAS. Unfortunately. So here's what I would do if we were running this, because I have run this in the past, but yeah, I haven't done this in a few years. But this was what I would be doing. So, I would be running a non-branded shopping campaign that take up around 65% of the budget. I would run a generic search campaign that takes up 30% of the budget. And then I would run a branded search campaign that take around 5% of the budget. What I would be focusing around in terms of economical metrics, I would be focusing on that we need to establish a ROAS of 1.5x to 2x, break even to slightly profitable, because we just need something to work with. I mean, you need to understand that our site can convert, at least. So cost per conversion needs to be below your product margin. And what you're going to focus on here is your search CTR, so click-through rate needs to be between 2 to 5x. Not 5%, and your shopping CTR needs to be in between 0.5 to 1%. Your CPC needs to be lowered over time, but you also need to understand that you can't just kill your volume. Then the current sales volume here needs to be 5 to 10 events per day. You need to have at least one winning product that you understand. So what you're basically going to do is you're going to launch a very simple structure. So this is what you can do. You can also add a branded shopping campaign. But what you're going to do is you're going to focus on setting up the fundamentals. So you're going to launch a simple but disciplined structure. So branded search, branded shopping, non-branded search, and non-branded shopping. The most important thing here is that you just don't mess up. So you don't mess up. You don't mix branded search volume with non-branded search volume. This ROAS target is for non-branded activities, not blended. The account. I don't care about your branded search because you cannot push branded search. You can push non-branded search. Then you need to get, if you're in the EU, not if you're in the US, but if you're in the EU, you need to get yourself a CSS provider. Not at the beginning, but once you're doing 10K a month, because then you can reduce your CPC prices by 20%. And that will make a very big difference. So yeah, and you basically need to have done your feed optimization and etc. Basically what I went over in the fundamentals in the beginning. And then you need to prioritize just discovery. You need to find new keywords. The priority should be testing, and getting new keywords. And you should aggressively mine your search term reports, and you should aggressively do your keyword research in this phase. So Google Trends, Google Keyword, and SEMrush is your favorite tools in this stage. So what you're basically going to do here is you're going to fix the fundamentals first. You're fixing your conversion tracking, you're fixing feed errors, you're fixing GTINs, you're fixing titles, etc. And then you're going to test bidding lightly. So you're going to start with maximum clicks. When you get around 30 conversions a month, then you're going to switch over to target ROAS. And then you're going to improve CTR versus via ad copy tracking and stronger value proposition. So you're going to work a lot with your value proposition, and you're going to work a lot with your CTRs. Then you're going to increase your budget on the campaigns, products, and queries. That's at break even or above. You're not going to focus on everything that's below break even. You're going to focus on the products that are at break even. And then you're going to begin. Now you're at the stage where you're beginning to basically move everything of these non-manual campaigns into PMax once you hit profitability signals and above 30 conversion. Then when you're going from track revenue from Google from 20K to 60K, then you're going to set up what we call non-branded PMax structure, a bucket strategy, a generic search campaign strategy, brand exclusion, PMax campaign, and branded search campaign. So what you're going to do here is you're going to replace your standard shopping campaign from the first stage with a feed-only PMax. Then you're going to introduce a labelizer to classify the products into heroes, zombies, and villains, and sidekicks. And that's going to shift your mindset from testing into controlled scaling, basically, with automated testing. And then you're going to push more spend into hero SKUs while limiting exposure to your low performance. So basically what you're going to do here is you're going to set up a framework that automatically tests and reduces your spend towards negative performing products. That is what you're going to do. And then you're going to basically begin improving your PMax assets and groups. And you're going to start very lightly with automations, with scripts, rules, and ROAS filters. And you're going to expand into new product categories, and you're going to expand into conversion rate optimization. That's what you're going to focus on here. So the goal here is pushing demand, scaling, and now you're going to scale very aggressively up to your 60K. And here the best metrics are to focus that your ROAS needs to get at least to 2.5 to 3x and 3.5. your majority of your spend going to your hero products, and you need a clear separation between heroes, zombies, and villains. Your search CTR needs to be above a 2%, and your shopping needs to be at least a 9.5% to 1% plus. Then you need to have very, very much spend stability, so you don't get any major ROAS drops while scaling. If you get that, then you need to go back to the fundamentals and you need to figure out why your ROAS have been dropping. And then PMAX insights, you need to focus on the asset groups plus product groups, driving a lot of revenue. So this is how you scale. You're basically expanding slowly with new tactics, new campaigns, and everything. Here, if you want the bonus shopping bucket strategy I'm talking about, then go into the bonus modules. And again, the bonus modules go into and see the negative keyword list. So what you're going to do here is now you're going to move from 60K to 120K. And now it gets a little bit more advanced, and you need to understand that this is going to be more advanced. You're introducing new campaigns into each stage. So now you're going to go into non-branded PMAX campaigns. You're going to brand the bucket strategy. You're going to add branded shopping campaigns. You're going to add generic search campaigns. And you're going to add SCAG and SCAG campaigns. So single keyword ad groups campaigns now. And you're going to add branded shopping campaigns. You're going to add, branded search campaigns. I could see that branded shopping campaigns is twice here. And then you're going to do brand inclusions, PMAX campaigns, and branded search campaigns. So what you're basically going to do here and what you're going to focus on is, again, that it's actually the same metrics that you're going to focus on economically from this and down to this, because now it's much more about scaling than it is about these things. So I'm not going to change the economic metrics anymore. So we're not going to dive into these things because they're clearly the same across all of these things now. So what you're going to do is here, when you're setting up the account structure from here, then you're going to fully segment your PMAX into heroes, zombies, and villains, and you're going to scale hero SKUs aggressively while isolating all the risk factors. So you're going to very, very aggressively decrease your villains, and you're going to kill or cap your villain product ruthlessly. You're going to add demand gen using your meta creatives for remarketing and lookalikes. Then you're also going to launch advertorial search for long-term high intent queries, and you're going to refine bidding towards target ROAS. So now you're going to drop all of this manual search. If you still have any manual bid strategies whatsoever, then you're going to kill that, move into target ROAS or target CPA strategy whenever your demand and your volume allows it. You're going to ruthlessly improve your feed quality continuously. So you're going to do titles optimization, imagery optimization, pricing optimization, promos optimization, and you're going to shift your focus into performance systems instead of individual campaigns. You're going to stop thinking in individual campaigns and you're going to start thinking overall blended campaign mix, overall account level. That's why you're also going to be thinking in demand gen terms now. And you're going to shift your focus from thinking about ROAS and POAS in general to lifetime value thinking of top selling products, because then we can outpace the competition even faster if we're thinking about customer lifetime value. So what we're going to begin thinking about here is just cash flow. How fast can we scale with current cash flow? You need to see the bonus module on branding shopping to set this up. You need to see the bonus module on Google Merchant Center Optimization Mastery, and you need to see the bonus module on PMAX Insight Scripts to get this really working so you can really, really dive into the nitty gritty. Then you're going to move into the really, really good phase. Now you're going to move into the 120 to 250K USD a month. It doesn't really change much from here. You're going to have a non-branded PMAX campaign, bucket strategy. You're going to have a branded shopping campaign. You're going to have a generic search campaign, SCAG search campaign. You're going to add a competitor search campaign, and you're going to add YouTube remarketing. You're going to add demand gen. You're going to add brand inclusion PMAX campaigns, and you're going to add a branded search campaigns. So what is different here? You're going to launch competitor search campaigns tied to the pain points, and you're going to outpace your competition. So what you're going to really need to understand here is this is the time to get ugly. Business is not fair. It is not how you deal with friends. It is the most ruthless game in the country. So you're going to do competitor campaigns. You're going to outbid your competition on the keywords. You're going to monitor if there comes minor things in the auctions. You're going to just steal their volume. Literally steal their volume. You need to be ruthless. Think of this like a boxing match. You don't go for just a jab when you can go for a knockout. And at this point, we are at the knockout phase. We are a good sized company and we are beginning to knock our competition out of the waters. So now you can do product duplication tactics. So you can duplicate your top products with new hooks, new bundles, new landing pages, new angles. You can consider to transitioning to POS bidding. So instead of optimizing just for revenue, maximal revenue, then you can optimize for your bottom line, so your gross margins instead, and that will help you. You also are gonna add YouTube and demand gen very aggressively to just fuel your top funnel. And I mean fuel, because we're now in a phase where we need to outpace and we need to basically expand our TAM all the time. So you can do, first of all, you're gonna mature your current market. So you're gonna take all the demand you can get in that market, and now you're also gonna begin evaluating what new regions and new currencies you're gonna expand into, what new languages, etc. Because at this stage, you don't have an account issue, you just have a cash flow issue and a TAM problem. So you need to expand your TAM quite drastically. You can expand your TAM in your mature markets by basically adding YouTube and demand gen, but you also need to expand into new region, new currencies, new languages. That's the most aggressive way to expand your TAM because you open up a new market, basically. So now you also need to begin building out a proper performance team across acquisition, creative, and retention. You need to begin working with increasing your AOV, increasing your lifetime value through bundles, upsells, email marketing, SMS marketing, meta marketing. And then you need to systemize scaling with automations, SOPs, and delegations. You also need, as an owner, begin to tighten your back-end operation, attribution, feed sync, conversion rate optimization, and analytics in this stage. So what bonus modules do you need to take a look at? You need to take a look at the competition. You need to take a look at the YouTube and demand gen strategies. And again, none of these are bullshit. So you can see here, I forgot to do this while I was here. So this is a 26K with 5K and spent 500% in ROAS. This is 6.5K, 41K generated. It's a 634% ROAS. Here's 25K spent, 163K generated is 681% generated. Here we have the big numbers, $900K dollars generated, and with only 93K in cost, and 600K in generated revenue with 51K in cost. That's 11 in ROAS. So I'm not bullshitting when I say I've done multiple of these cases, and we know what we're talking about from everything. So now I hope you really begin understanding that this framework can save you so much time, effort, and money just by following it, even if you're going to implement it yourself and not hiring me. So now we come to the outsourcing do and don'ts. First of all, when are you going to outsource your Google Ads? So first of all, let me get this off. So first of all, when you're going to have the disposable time. So there's 3 or 4 metrics basically. So first of all is disposable time, then it's product market fit, and then it's operating cash flow. And then it's finding a trustworthy PPC buyer. So first of all, you need to evaluate if you're missing the time to focus on your business, and Google Ads is the one that's taking away time from growth task, operational backend task, then you're reacting instead of planning for growth. Then performance depends on when you have time to look at the account, and that is drastically going to slow down the growth in your business because you don't focus on what's actually relevant than basically expanding your backend operation, expanding your warehouse team, expanding your performance team, expanding your creative team, your branding, your ecom manager skills. If you don't have any disposable time to focus on these things, then Google Ads is never going to scale because you don't prioritize it. So if you still have time and energy to learn and operate properly, then you don't outsource. So here's the key takeaway is your focus should be on strategy and operations, not low-level marketing grunt work. Then before you outsource, you already need to know that your product sells. You need to have tried running ads on a product on some channels and has seen sales come through consistently. ROAS needs to be greater than 2.5x because else don't outsource, because Yeah, and then your conversion rates need to be stable and your demand needs to exist beyond just friends. Because if the offer or funnel is unproven, so this means that your ROAS is less than 2.5x, conversion rate aren't stable, then your offer isn't gonna get better by outsourcing. Outsourcing is gonna accelerate what is already working. It is not gonna fix your internal problems, and you need to understand that. Then you need to understand, is your operating cash flow at a stage where you can scale without risking the business? You need at borderline minimum to be at a 20K per month in monthly revenue. You need to have positive cash flow month over month, and your blended ROAS need to be above a 2.5x. So here's the key takeaway is if your ad spend creates more stress in your head and you're always wondering about break even, then it's too early. Outsourcing is not going to fix major offer problems. And I can't emphasize this enough. Outsourcing is not going to fix your backend problem. Outsourcing is not going to fix your offer problem. Outsourcing is not going to fix your problems. Outsourcing is going to accelerate an offer that is already winning. Then you need to understand that you need to have a trustworthy PPC buyer. You only outsource if you can check this, this, and this. And if you can check this, then you need to find a trustworthy PPC buyer. You need to find a partner that can check all of these things. They need to be an official Google Ads partner. They need to have case studies and preferably interviews, because Google Ads written reviews on Trustpilot or Google Ads reviews or Facebook reviews can be fake. It is a little bit harder to fake something when you have the owner of the company sitting with you for 20 minutes and talking about the experience. It is way, way, way harder to fake that, because you can understand in the relation between them. You can feel the relationship between the two parties, and you can also understand if it's genuine. In a 20-minute interview, if people are faking it, they will borderline fuck up at some point. And that's not just something I'm saying, that is general psychology. So look for someone that has interviews where they are asking questions and having a dialogue, not just reviews, and not just a 1-minute review where the client has given the interview. You need to look for interviews because they are much more trustworthy, because they are harder to fake. And then just on the last note, if you still need to micromanage, if your offer is not working, then you don't outsource at all. So if you have watched this video and are thinking, yeah, we are looking to outsource this. This is way too complicated for us, or we don't have the time, or we want to see significant growth within these guidelines, then you can outsource it to me. So the first step of this would be a growth call, basically. So what we basically start off on with a growth audit is that when you decide that you want to go with us in the process, you will be taken into a process, what we call a growth audit call. We will not provide you with anything on this call, but we will ask a hell of a lot of questions. I'll ask you about your business economics. I will ask you about your cash flow. I will ask you about your current marketing situation. I'll ask you about your dream marketing situation. I'll check your qualification metrics against our qualification metrics, and I will request view-only access to your Google Ads account. Note that we don't work with any companies spending less than $3,000 per month on Google Ads. When this is completed, I have access to a Google Ads account, I know your situation, etc. And now I can have my team develop a strategy roadmap. So after you have been qualified, we begin spending 20 to 40 minutes, and we've spent 20 to 40 minutes going over your initial situation. Then our team of specialists begin producing your very own scaling roadmap like this you just saw, with your bottlenecks outlined, with your fundamental errors outlined, your initial optimization and I'll give you an initial optimization proposal with campaign structures and all of these things, how you can do it. And then we go into tools. So which tools you need to use to increase your performance. So note that this takes around 60 minutes of work for the specialist to do and prep on your account. So when you're gonna book this call, you have to be very serious about your marketing and very serious about outsourcing your company. Else you're wasting our time, and we would have spent a lot of time working on your account and prepping this. When we've done this step and this step, then we go into the third step, which is a strategy call. On this call, we will dive into your unique scaling roadmap that our specialists have made for your company. And like I just said, this is not a cookie cutter approach. It's uniquely made for you, and we've spent 60 minutes on prepping these. This is why we only do 20 calls a month with qualified stores. And I literally kid you not, we do not do more than 20 calls a month. We do not do this, and it is not a marketing tactic to keep urgency. I literally don't have time. It takes me 20 hours of unpaid work when we're gonna do these things. Then I need to do the sales process with you, etc. It's probably we allocate around 60 to 70 hours a month on these activities, and they're non-billable. So please be prepared. By the end of this call, you will know exactly what is holding your company back. You will also get all the bonus module in a shared Notion with your company. So when I'm talking about bonus modules, I'm talking about these things I've referred to across all of these channels. So if you don't go with us, then at least what you will get is you will get 7 bonus tools to become a sensei in Google Ads. That's what you're gonna get. So by the end of this, you will basically have gotten an audit call, a strategy roadmap, and a strategy call with me. And then if you still feel like this is a good option, then you will choose a package in the end of the strategy call. You'll be presented with 3 packages you can choose from. You will be presented with a package for 3 to 10k in ad spend. You will be presented with a package for 10 to 30k in ad spend a month. And you will be presented with a model for 30 plus k a month in ad spend. These models is some kind of fixed fees plus a percentage of ad spends. The fixed fees increases because of the tool cost and softwares that's basically associated with the work. So that's all our billable work. The percentage is then gonna cover the specialist wages and etc. So the price you will be given is based on the scope and value we deliver on the account. So before you book any account, I'm gonna be blunt, and I'm not gonna scare you off or anything. I'm just gonna be blunt that our prices are starting at $1.5k a month. So if you can carry that at your current operating cash flow situation, then don't book us. And yes, you can go to someone that's cheaper, but I guarantee you that they would never have the understanding of Google Ads as I've just shown you. They would never understand these things in the same way that we do. So this is the price you're gonna pay for having specialist agency taking a look at your account and scaling it. So if you think this is a very good idea for you, then you click here to book a 30 to 60 minute audit with me. And again, note that we don't work with companies that's spending less than 3k a month on Google Ads. All the companies spending less than 3k a month can just refer to this roadmap, and then they will have everything to begin spending over 3k a month easily. What you're gonna do here is you're gonna click this button. When you're gonna click this, then you're gonna get taken into this. And here you're gonna fill out your number, some qualification metrics, and then you're gonna book a Google Ads audit into my team's calendar. And then, hopefully, you have gotten a lot of learnings. And you will get a really good partnership up and running with us when you get into this call and go through the entire process. This was everything I had. It's been 1 hour and nearly 20 minutes going through the entire roadmap. And this roadmap, feel free to use it for anything of the sort that you want to. You can use it for yourself, or you can use this as an experience of my understanding in Google Ads. But one thing I would love to is speaking about your company if you're spending more than 3k in ads per month at this point. So yeah, that's everything. So thank you for listening in.